6th?
January 6th is coming up. January 6th is when the Electoral College votes are being read to the Congress. Okay, now the procedure works like this. There's a big rally down in Washington D.C. The mayor of Washington D.C., a particular creep, Aristo creep, has decided they're going to close all gas stations and fooderies so that the poor people down there exercising their First Amendment right. So she's interfering with their exercise of the First Amendment right. Somebody needs to sue her on that. But anyway, they're going to have a big rally on January 6th to put pressure on what's going on in Congress. Now, the procedure in Congress works like this: the electors have already voted, meaning that the electors from the Democrats and the Republican states that were uncontested have already put forward their votes that are going to be read on that day, January 6th. Now, there's 6 states, I believe, where legislatures have set a counter slate of electors' votes, and I think one more where the governor did it, the 7th state. But so there are contending elector seats. But the official document will come to Mike Pence, the vice president, and then who will read it to both chambers. And so both chambers, both the House and the Senate, are going to be there, just like they do for the yearly State of the Nation address by the president. And so at that time, the procedure goes, the vice president will read the vote, and then it can be challenged. It can be challenged by at least, you have to have 1 congressman and 1 senator, and then they would go and they would, the houses would separate, and then they would debate in the Senate, and they would debate in the House, and they would come back after the 2 hours. Now, it could be that they fight each vote, or they could fight all the votes together. For example, Pennsylvania has 20 votes. They could fight them once in the 1 2-hour battle and then come back and then vote on it. Or they could do each vote, in which case there's 40. That would be 40 hours and a whole week. And that's important for a reason. One reason is you can tell which way they're trying to slow roll us. If they do it the right way, which is say, listen, I'm going to vote I'm going to fight each one of these electoral votes, then you're getting the idea that there is significant congressional pressure to extend it out, to force the contingent elections, which I'll get to in a second because I'm still doing the procedure. But if not, then they could potentially at least go through those 6-7 states which are challenged in both of the chambers, and then come back, and then they would vote on whether to accept or not accept those elector votes. Now, if it say all the Republicans vote and they hold the Senate, because the Senate is held by then, and that the House is goes their way, then you would have, as it stands right now, say the Republicans did a miracle and they all stuck together, but I'll get to that in a second. Then you'd have 1 vote from the House for it and 1 side for the Senate against it. So in my mind, it does not sit. Now, there's some nonsense about a statute that says then they can revert back to the state governor and see who his certification. But that's nonsense. That's extra constitutional. That's a statute. It doesn't outrank the Constitution. They have to get those votes to sit then. And if they don't sit then those, in the case of Pennsylvania, 20 seats gets knocked off. Now, this has been a week of fast news. It's been a week of fast news about how this is going to go. Okay, so then to finish on the procedure, then the ultimate backstop of the Constitution, the ultimate end stop, is the contingent election, where it goes by House delegates, not then the Senate, not then it's in the House, but it's by the state delegates, in which case the Republicans have a 26 to 22 advantage, and then Trump and Pence become president. That's the ultimate backstop and the ultimate way that Trump could actually win. But it's the shenanigans that can go beforehand. Like at the very end, you're going to talk about the commission, Cruz's commission. That's at the end. You're going to talk about that. There's a myriad of ways that can get there. But to catch up on the news for our listeners, so originally, Mo Brooks from Alabama, was a great legislature in the House, came up and said, I'm going to challenge it. And then 100, to their credit, now it's up to 140 House members are going to challenge the election on one side. Well, no senator came forward. And then good old Mitt said, this is a bad idea. He's already jumped ship. The rat whose wife is sitting on the Chinese bank. The rat is jumped ship. The turtle, I call him the turtle, but we should call him the turtle rat. jumped ship and said this is a
Rhino
bad
rat.
idea. The Rhino rat is this is a bad idea. And of course, Hawley, looking for, he's a young guy looking for. I mean, we're not the best fan of Hawley because he's got some questionable gun issues, and he's another one of these guys who's never done anything in his life except go to school. He came out, to his credit, and said, "I'm going to challenge it." And then a particular contemptible little pissant named Ben Sasse, another one of these. He's a Harvard guy. He's actually a doctor in history.
He's a loser, John. He's
right, a Harvard guy, a Yale guy, and an Oxford guy. I mean, he's just a trifecta of idiot. This guy comes out with this big statement going, "This is wrong. I'm against it," because he's a Republican. And so he comes out and says against it. And I've talked to all my colleagues, and everybody else agrees that it's now there's 2 points about this. Everybody else agrees that there was no case here and that there was fraud because there was no fraud here because all the courts kicked it out. Now, the key point whenever you're told is this, the bottom line is this: there have been no evidentiary hearings, period. No evidence. There's zero evidence. Zero evidence. Now they keep trying to turn us against us, saying, "Oh, there is no evidence." No. Let's have the hearing. Let's have the documents. Let's go see the ballots. If you say these ballots are not fake, well, then it's easy to prove. They can go down to the nano level to determine whether these ballots are true or not. It's a big thing because, of course, of fraud for money, and for stopping both privately banks and the federal government and state governments too they can take a piece of paper that's allegedly $1 or anything or ballot, and they can see the nano levels. They can see the number of times it's been folded. They can see whether, as the one expert said, whether the guy who handled it was a smoker or not. It's to that level degree of extent. So if there's nothing to hide here, well, let's have all the ballots. Problem is, in states like Arizona, they are now not, the legislature sent a subpoena. The Arizona's legislature sent the subpoena to the electoral commission to get the evidence. And they're refusing. So they're refusing to give all of the evidence. So let's have the hearing. Now, then the great, and we're going to call him. I mean, I have to give him credit. He's really standing up. Our guy, Ted Cruz, gets apparently he has been talking to a bunch of the senators. So I guess Sasse was talking to all the Democrats, or he's just an idiot because he comes out and now there are 10 senators.
John, I have to interrupt you because my response to Sasse is going through life an idiot. There's just no way to go through life as an idiot. Right, but I just want to also interrupt you. I just want to point up on the screen. If you notice, the Senator Cruz was threatened with sedition, to be arrested for crimes of sedition and treason because of he's calling for he's coming in and doing all this. This act of talking to the other senators, this act of trying to challenge the election. The Democrats are calling for his arrest for sedition and treason.
Of course. So why do these fools think this is going to go over? Because if they get away with this and making charges like that, they're going to keep doing it until using the power of the deep state against the people of America until you decide that you are going to go to your church and they arrest you for that. To decide you're going to raise your kids and they arrest you for that.
They're already arresting you for.
So what do you have to lose, Ben Sasse and company? Why don't you just stand up and do the right thing? Now the thing is this. I'm going to start calling him our man Cruz because I'm telling you, I've watched, Sidney is a great lawyer. There are a lot of great lawyers out there, but Ted Cruz is one of the best cross-examiners and trial lawyers I've ever seen. He is really, really good. Now, this is a big case for him to handle. It's a very complex, moving thing. We don't have any evidence. We don't have a lot of the evidence. So he was apparently the president called him to when the Texas case was filed and when the Pennsylvania case filed on the president's behalf up to the Supreme Court. That was put off to January 22 so they can slow Ross. The president asked him to be lead counsel, and he would be because he's had like 10 cases and he's won 5 out of 5 or 6 of them out of that in front of the Supreme Court. But besides that, he is a great lawyer. So now what does he have to work with? Well, each one of these, when the roll call goes off for Arizona, he can, he could be, he's going to be the one leading all the problems with Arizona. The number one problem being that, listen, they're not giving up the evidence. Number two problem is listen, they play this game. This is the game that they've been slow rolling the election. First, they would only let them look at 100 votes. Then they when they found out that 3% of them could have were what happened in Arizona. One of the things that happened in Arizona is when they voting they got misfiled, or because it was wrinkled and didn't get spit up by the machine, an elector will look at it, a so-called judge will look at it, and if they found out in the first 100 batch of look, they found 3 errors that hurt Trump. And so then in the 1500, they said, oh, there wasn't enough because it slipped down to 1%. That's not the way you do statistics. Hey, and it was a real simple solution. Get them all. Why can't you have them all? So he could just go through. And the fact that the Arizona election isn't giving the state legislature, from that, you should never accept those Arizona votes. And it goes that way for Georgia. Listen, he should start with Georgia, because there is no excuse for
he'll have to do it alphabetically. It's going to be alphabetically. Right. So the first one's going to be Arizona.
There is no excuse. Well, the circumstantial evidence is this: all these states, as Sydney says, you never stop presidential elections. The only time it's ever happened was in one county down in 2000, which was the hanging Chad one. Every other presidential election, every other single time, you count it until it's all done. This is the only one. So it's not suspicious. It's collusion, your favorite word, right? Collusion, when these 7 battleground states stop because now they know how many they have to steal, and then in the middle of the night, produce when nobody else is watching, produce the Biden win. So when Pennsylvania gets and it's 600,000 votes versus, like, I forget, it's like 6,000 or something for Trump, something like that, something like 16,000, like some impossible 96% vote for Biden. There is no jurisdiction where Biden wins 96%. Nowhere, not even in New York. Are you kidding me? Not even in California. That's nonsense. So I mean, he could go, and so you're gonna have a great lawyer. The only problem being is there's not a lot of the evidence, because back to my original point is again, there's been 0 evidentiary hearings. All this is judges refusing to do their job because they can do it with impunity. As we said before, the judiciary is the deepest part of the deep state. They are the deep state, and it's the imperial judiciary. They get to do what they want and get away with it.
We cover that in the book that's discussed in the book about how they're unconstitutional. The courts have abandoned us constitutionally.
Well, okay, so let me finish with the news. So, of course, Cruz comes up with this, and Paul Ryan steps up and says, oh, this is horrible for Republicans. And then he said it's horrible for conservatives. I nearly fell out of my chair. And maybe this is all for a really good reason. The number one problem Trump has had in the last 4 years, our candidate, our guy, Trump has had, is who? Who's the number one problem?
The rhinos.
The rhinos. That moron, Paul Ryan.
Right? And let me define rhinos. I'll give you by doing the example. There's Paul Ryan. There's Mitch McConnell. There's Ben Sasse. And John, you had said to me before that Ben Sasse was going at this as somebody who was trying to what was it you said that it was he's trying to win
the party for 2024.
Right.
He thinks he's going to be the Republican. The moderate.
And I said to you, I think you're giving this man way too much credit, John. You're actually giving him the idea that there's some kind of honor in this, and the fact that he's saving the party for 2024. John, he's not doing it. He's no different than these people like John McCain, Mitt Romney, all these self-aggrandizing bullies that want to get up in front of the camera. All they want to be is in front of the camera, and they want to be, oh, look at me. I'm going to be their favorable people when it comes to the media. They want to be the media's like go-to person. So they want the attention from all these leftist media. So of course they don't mind who they step on their way to get that. They don't mind who they crush, whether it's constitutional or not. You give them way too much credit because all they are is me. They just want themselves to be noticed by the media. They don't want to speak the truth. Pierre Delacour and his buddy Ben Sasse, John, these people are dirty. Arlen Specter. They are all they want to do is, if there's a hint about an election, it's only their own they care about. They don't care about who's president in 2024. They don't care as long as they are in front of the cameras at making their cheddar, John. They just want to make their cheddar.
Well, good old Paul Ryan's married a billionaire, so he doesn't need any, right? So
he doesn't need cheddar, but he wants the attention, brother. He wants the attention from the media.
There's two things.
They're all looking for the Christiana Ampor interview. That's all they're looking for, brother. Christiana Ampor interview, or what's the other? George Stephanopoulos? Yeah, that clown.
They want to be lollipoplic. Well, there's a couple things about good old. So Paul Ryan comes out and makes this statement, and now there is the usual suspects have now 4 senators, of course, the squishes and a new squish apparently have now stepped up afterwards and said, "Oh, this is wrong. There was no fraud in the election." So it doesn't look like the Republicans have the vote yet. However, that's before the best trial attorney I've seen in a long time gets up and starts making it and starts talking. And Cruz is amazing. And so there is going to be a fight. And God bless those 140 congressmen who know that they're up in 2 years. Creeps like Sass, he just won his election. He can do it from impunity, and so can the transgender Mitt Romney. But now here's the thing: who's going to win? Whose plan is this anyway, right? This is God's plan. And if God determines that the best thing for now is for us to take names of these creeps who are jumping ship now if God's plan is to out these rats now, then that's okay. Then that's God's plan. Think about it. The Paul Ryans and the Mitt Romneys, why are they so bitter? Well, think about it. God is, it's like, I can understand the anxiety of people. I mean, I have people I call my friend that, they want to say they're going to go back to drinking because of this election. But hey, and the thing is because, as the Bishop Sheen, it says, we're so powerless against all of the forces that are arrayed against us. And we forget, though, something the great Joel Osteen says, right? You and God are a majority, right? Yeah. You and God are a majority. So ultimately, I firmly believe that's all in God's plans. But think about this.